Good afternoon, everyone. I'm a product manager with Flipkart, but this talk has nothing to do with Flipkart. So I'm going to share with you some of the insights that I learned working for an early stage SaaS startup. It was an amazing experience for me, so I thought it would be relevant to share the insights that I learned during my tenure at Tickle. How many of you here are working on B2B products, SaaS products? Please raise your hand. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to three characters which, you might be able to relate. Okay, thank you. Okay, so first let me talk about Adam. He's a sales manager. So he came into our free trial pipeline as an inbound lead. He had a clear problem that he needs to address. He was aware that Tickle might be able to help him. He was an engaged free trial prospect. By engaged, I mean he was very much interested in to try out what the product offers. He tried out all possible product flows, asked a lot of questions on what the product is capable of, what is coming up in the near future, what's our product roadmap. So many questions were asked. But after the trial period ended, the deal never went through. The reason given was that they are currently busy with other priorities and they would come back to us in the next quarter, which didn't happen. Now let's talk about Kyra. She's a sales enablement manager. Again, she came in through the inbound marketing channel. The demo went very well. She was very serious about the problem and the solution which Tickle was providing. She was keen to try out the product. She signed up. She tried out the product for 3 days. And then the deal was closed. She was very happy that this product is going to solve the problem for her. Now let's talk about Arthur. So he's a co-founder of a growing startup. He came in through a referral. He was curious about what Tickle is trying to solve. He asked for a demo. The demo went fine. We put him on the free trial pipeline, but he never actually tried. He had allocated the free trial evaluation work to some of his team members, but the trial never started. So when the trial was about to end, we said, your free trial period is expiring. So he again came back to us saying, no, we need to try out, please extend the trial. So we extended for a couple of times, but still the free trial never started. So he came back again after 3 months saying that, we want to try out the product, give a demo to other stakeholders. So the sales process was continuing, but the free trial never kicked off. So as you can see in all these three scenarios, free trial played an important journey in the buyer's decision-making process. So even though we understand that free trial is going to help the prospect make the decision, but most of the time it comes as part of the product launch plan, right? We never think about how to optimize the free trial, how to ensure the user has a free, smooth onboarding flow as part of product development. It almost comes as an afterthought or just a line item that you want to check off when you are planning your product launch. So what happens is that the prospects come into your product, they sign up, they're just left to explore on their own. So they don't really see what the value is. Many times they get lost, they don't come back to you. So, and that's the statistic that is staring at our face here. 70% of the free trial prospects never actually try out the product. So when I talk about this free trial, what do I mean by it? What is it that free trial is trying to achieve? So there is an expectation with which the prospect signs up, right? So he sees your product, say, through your website, through your marketing collateral content, through your product demo. So many channels by which he hears about your product. So he thinks, he understands that there is certain value that your product is offering to him. But only as part of the free trial, he actually experiences that value, right? So free trial is a strategy by which you can marry the two. So what is the perceived value with which the prospect comes into your marketing pipeline? and what is the value that he's actually going to get out of the product. So in order to optimize this free trial pipeline and to make sure that prospects who try out the product end up as your customers, I propose this 4-step process. So the first step is make sure that you define a well-structured qualification plan and enforce it diligently. Second step is to make sure that when the prospects sign up, the onboarding flow is engaging. The third step is identify what is the outcome for which they have come into your product and help your prospects reach that desired outcome. The fourth most crucial step is to ensure that whatever communication that you send out during this free trial cycle is relevant, is contextual, and it is engaging, right? And most importantly, also make sure that you define the metrics to track. It's not about feature usage. It's not about how many people clicked on this particular link, went to this particular flow, but it's more about what are the channels, what are the steps that they have taken, and how did they navigate the product, right? So define those metrics and capture the metrics for you to analyze what is working and what is not working. So be on top of your numbers always. So before I proceed with explaining these 4 steps in detail, let me quickly give you an idea of what Tickle is. Tickle is a sales readiness platform. It empowers sales reps to be on top of their game, to be aware of the content, the skills that is needed to make sure that the deal closes, right? So the target audience for Tickle is sales enablement managers, sales leads, VP of sales who are trying to grow their sales teams to become more productive. So now let's talk about the first step, which is the free trial qualification. Lincoln Murphy, who is a renowned thought leader in the SaaS space, I highly recommend his blog 16 Ventures, do check it out. So he says that free trial conversion rates are very much dependent on the top of the funnel activity. So if the quality of leads are low, then your conversion rates after the free trial are going to be low. So in order to identify whether a lead is qualified to enter the free trial pipeline, I would propose that you follow a 3-step process. The first is a customer development interview. Again, these pointers would be very much helpful for early stage startups where you have the bandwidth to explore and understand the customer's need in detail. A customer development interview is nothing but a series of open-ended, unbiased questions where you try to unravel the problem, the need of the customer. You also try to understand what are the current alternatives that they are using, how is this problem important to them in achieving their business objectives, right? But you never pitch the solution. So as product developers or product owners, we are so passionate about the product, and as soon as somebody says, this is the problem I'm facing, you immediately pitch in and say that, oh, okay, this is the offering that we come up with, right? So please stop yourself. First, understand, be open, listen. Listening is such an important skill that I cannot emphasize more. So listen, get as many inputs as possible, and then proceed to the next stage, which is your product demo. And here by product demo, I don't mean showcasing the capabilities or features of your product, right? It's not about how many features you have, how innovative your product is, but it is about mapping that need that you discovered in the first step, and designing your demo to cater to that need, right? So now, as part of the demo, the prospect understands that this is the perceived value that this product is going to provide me. And in the third step, have an internal discussion with your sales, marketing, and customer success teams to determine what are the, whether this prospect is qualified, and what are the steps or what are the success metrics that the prospect would measure to say that this free trial is a success for me, right? So I have a list of questions here. I don't think you would be able to see it, but these questions serve as a checklist whereby you can see, can understand what are the prospect's motivations, what are his challenges, what is his role in the organization, what parts of the demo interested him the most, what use cases that they are looking for, how is their reaction towards pricing. So all these different questions would help you understand the prospect much more thoroughly. And you could belong to a buyer persona camp or a jobs to be done camp. So there are two camps typically, exist in the product space where people try to understand the buyer's persona more and then cater the marketing material or communication to that persona, or they try to unravel what is the job for which the prospect is hiring this product for. So depending upon whichever camp you fit in, customize these questions, and this should help you to qualify the prospect for the free trial. I find this framework very useful. This is kind of a ladder to categorize your prospects. So at the bottom of the ladder, the customer is totally unaware. Maybe, for example, in the case of Tickle, we are looking at fast-growing startups, right? For an early stage startup, he's not aware of the potential issues that he would face when his sales team is growing. Second step is the problem aware, when they have just started feeling the pinch of the problem. Third stage is solution aware. So now they have put in some processes in place, maybe sharing documents through Wiki, collaborating through Google Docs and so on. And fourth step is product aware, where the prospect knows about your product. He knows that this product is going to solve this particular problem. And the final stage is the most aware. So they know that your product is going to solve the problem, but they want to understand more details on your customer support, how your service is. They want to play around with the product, right? So the top three stages, if a prospect fits into these top three stages, then there is a higher chance of conversion. And this framework, again, is to measure the interest, not just in terms of importance, but also in terms of urgency. So many times, given the organization priorities, even though a particular problem is important, it's crucial, they try to push it because it's not on the top 3 list, right? So if the problem is not in the top 3 list, forget about it. They're not going to come back to it either this quarter or next quarter. So now that you have qualified your prospect, you know that this particular prospect is qualified, has a clear need, and has a higher chance of conversion. Let's get into the onboarding flow. So although we understand that onboarding is an important step, it typically goes between product and marketing, right? Who is the clear owner? Is it going to be product manager or a product marketing manager, right? So the clear owner is not identified. But irrespective of who the owner is, we know that without effective onboarding, your prospects are going to drop off. And by onboarding, I don't mean product tours or tutorials. Usually this is what people think that, okay, as soon as my product is ready, let me add a bunch of tooltips and then I'm done with it. No, that's not what onboarding means. Des Trainer, who is the co-founder of Intercom, he says that it's dangerous to assume everyone can work everything out themselves, right? So can denotes the ability. So whether a prospect can understand your product, whether he can navigate the floors, whether he can get to the value that your product offers. But it's also about the motivation, right? Many times, given our short attention span, if something is not clear, we just drop off and we don't have the motivation to come back to it. So you'll have to address this problem, the onboarding problem, both from an ability as well as from a motivation standpoint. So in order to optimize or design your onboarding flow, I propose 3 steps. One is first identify 3 to 4 use cases. So the more you talk to your customers, you would understand what are the 3 to 4 use cases that would really impact, right? So identify the use cases and then design your onboarding flow for each of those use cases. So in the case of Tickle, the sales manager can create missions by which they can test the pitching skills. They can test how the sales reps respond to emails, right? So you can give various missions or tasks based on which a sales rep can be evaluated. Or there could be a sales manager who want to design a well-structured onboarding program. In that case, creating a course would be more efficient, right? So once you have identified, you have to nudge your prospects to take those steps, right? And this nudging shouldn't be on your face. It has to be as non-intrusive as possible. The reason being, people learn differently. So some people like to be guided step by step with textual instructions. Some people like to watch a video. Some people would prefer not to be disturbed, but they would want to explore themselves, right? So make sure that whatever forms of learning that you provide in your product, make sure they are non-intrusive. And when the prospect lands on your page or lands on your product for the first time, please make sure that they don't land on a lonely island. By lonely island, what I mean is the empty state, right? So only after they do certain activities, they will be able to realize the value of the product. But in order to do those activities, they'll have to be given some example, some context for them to get started. So this is a good example of Trello, which uses the product in itself as an onboarding tool. So it gives clear steps on what they can do and how they can create a card, how they can create a plan, how they can create a list, and so on. So now that we have talked about onboarding, let's talk more about the desired outcome, which is the crucial part of the puzzle. So as you talk to your prospects as part of qualification or demo, you would get to understand what they are trying to achieve. But in many cases, you would see that the free trial is self-serve. The prospect can sign up themselves and free to explore. In those cases, it is more important to identify what is the single most important thing that the prospect is trying to do. You know, it is as simple as just asking. You don't have to design a complex workflow. Just a plain text is enough to get started. As you know, in the product circles, we would have come across this wow moment, aha moment, 7 friends in 10 days, so many stats that you have heard. But all these actually point to the fact that the precise moment when the prospect realizes the value, right? But in order to reach that moment, the wow moment, there are a certain series of steps that a user need to take. So what I call is as the success path. So for the use cases that you have identified, define the success path. So for example, for Tickle, one of the valid use cases is that the sales manager or the sales enablement manager, he should be able to create a course, and he should be able to share it with a team of learners or sales reps in this case. So in order to do that, he has to perform the series of steps. First, pick the course creation option, give a name and description, give an outline, how he wants to structure the course, and he has to upload whatever content that is already there, preview it, publish it, and invite the learners. So in order to reach this final step of realizing that wow moment, these are the intermediate steps that he needs to perform. So it's not just about identifying these steps, but also measuring how the conversion rates are at each step. So if you have instrumented properly, you would be able to figure out what are the points where there is friction, where your prospects are dropping off. In this particular case, what we found was most of our prospects were dropping off at this uploading content stage. So our prospects were looking for, a perfect solution. So the excuses that we heard were, we don't have the content available, our training team is working on it, and so on. So because of this delay, what we decided was, let's take that load from them. So we have an internal content development team. We figured out what content would be relevant to that prospect. So we created a sample course and uploaded it as part of the sign-up process. So all the sales manager needs to do is to just take a look at the course and share it with the learner. So figure out what are the friction points and whether you can take up some of the load on yourself so that the prospect reaches that wow moment. Brian Halligan, the CEO of HubSpot, he puts it very nicely. He says, is your wow to work ratio high enough? So in order to reach the wow moment, there is a certain amount of work that you need to do, right? So is that wow moment worthy enough of the work that needs to be done? So something that we'll have to think through. Finally, as a supporting, enabling solution for your onboarding and to help your prospects reach the desired outcome, you'll have to make sure your lifecycle communication is engaging. There's just one goal for planning out your lifecycle communication, which is keep it more directional. Make sure that the tone is more directional, giving steps, and ensuring that these are the things that prospect needs to do to get maximum value out of the trial. A few pointers here on how to design a perfect lifecycle email. For your trial period, identify 4 to 6 emails that would be relevant, and please make it personal. The content, don't have the content tone as coming from a robot, but keep it more personal, more understanding the prospect kind of a tone, right? And the trigger points for sending these emails or communication, let it be event driven. So as soon as the prospect completes a step, let the trigger be enabled to send the next set of things that they could do. And most importantly, when the trial period is about to end, do send out a notification saying that the trial period is going to expire. And if people are really serious, they would come back to you saying, I didn't have the bandwidth and I want an extension. People who are not serious would ignore that mail. So a couple of examples which might be relevant. So one is from Drift. So as you can see, as part of the welcome email, they clearly ask, why did you sign up? So without knowing the intent of your prospect, you cannot optimize the onboarding flow. So make sure that you ask your prospect as part of the onboarding or as part of your communication channel. And Asana also gives clear steps, clear direction on what steps a user can do after he signs up. So this way, you're helping the prospect take the next step forward to reach the desired outcome. So in summary, the conversion rate, if you're looking to increase your free trial conversion rate, make sure that your prospect is qualified, and make sure that your onboarding experience is designed to help the prospect reach the desired outcome. And you have a communication plan that helps and engages your prospect, and it's not a generic mail that you send out to everybody who signs up for free trial. So one last point before I wind up. I walked through the same deck to a B2B product manager yesterday. So I wanted to get his feedback on whether this material is useful or not. So what he said was, yes, this is useful, very relevant, but I don't have the time for it. Given all the other priorities, I can't think about what emails would be relevant, or how can I talk to individual prospects and get feedback. So my only suggestion is change the perspective. Instead of finding time, please make time for this, because this is really important, and we've seen having a good impact on improving our conversion rates. So if you want to explore further, here are some resources on how you can optimize your onboarding flow, some sample emails which you can refer to for inspiration. And you can also optimize these email communication, keeping it more event-driven using the tools that I have listed there. So for any further questions, please feel free to reach out to me.